Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Gurren Otaku Council podcast. I'm your host, Ace.
And I'm McMillian.
And we are back with another special episode today. Today, we'll be doing a Season 1 retrospective of Jujutsu Kaisen. Joining us today, we have Foop from the Blerd Mob podcast, as well as our friend Ryun. And you can find him on IG at RyanMoore /_. And you can also find Foop and the Blerd Mob on Twitter and Instagram as well, under the Blerd Mob. With that being said, if you want to join us every week, as we discuss all things anime, then make sure to hit that subscribe button, as well as follow us on our social medias at Twitter and Instagram, so you can stay updated on all things about the council. And with that being said, the council is now in session. Let the meeting begin. So, how you guys doing today?
I'm all right.
Pretty good.
I'm ready to open up the safe.
So I see we have some matching shirts in the chat today.
It's twin them.
Oh, we gonna get into it already. This is Maki's show.
This is Maki's show.
The Maki show.
We renaming this Jujutsu Maki.
Jujutsu Maki. So all right, so just let all the viewers and listeners know this is how it's gonna do. This is how the episode is gonna be run down, kind of similar to our Tokyo Revengers retrospective. We're gonna talk about our likes of the show. We're gonna talk about our dislikes, and then towards the end, we're gonna talk about what do we expect to see from season 2. But to start off the episode, we're gonna start it off a little bit different than the last special episode. We're gonna start it off with a hot take, everybody. So I'm gonna let this be known now. Hot take alert. But before I say that, I would like to say that I think everybody here in this chat does enjoy Jujutsu Kaisen. Am I right or wrong with that statement?
Yeah, I like it.
It was cool.
I could go with or without it. I'm very neutral.
I'm with Ryan.
Okay. So we got some neutral parties. It was all right. It's good. But anyways, the hot take. Jujutsu Kaisen was overhyped, plain and simple. When this anime first came out, everybody was acting like it was the second coming of Jesus or something. They basically gave it the same level of hype when Demon Slayer was first airing. That's if not more, that's the same amount of hype that it got. It got so much hype that I decided not to watch the anime until the season ended and all the hype died, and then so I could just view the show for myself instead. But with that being said, do you guys also think that Jujutsu Kaisen was overhyped?
So for me, you want to go ahead,
you can go.
The twins.
I mean, I'm just saying, brother. Do you want to go? How you want to do this?
I guess I'll go. So even though I thoroughly enjoy Jujutsu Kaisen, I think it's a very nice and fun anime. It definitely, I don't think it deserved the hype it got when it came. By all means, it has stuff that's going for it that I do think are slightly different, but still kind of resembles the anime of yesteryear. It's not like anything new quite yet that I haven't seen. So it has like a sprinkle here of uniqueness, but I don't think anything that it should have gotten the ranting and raving that it got when it first
aired. You felt like it got a sprinkling of uniqueness?
I don't even
some
think
parts
that.
here and there.
So this is my spiel.
Some parts here and there. Not a lot, but I think some parts, like most of the time, most of the biggest threat is usually the enemy team. This time it's Gojo. He's on our side. Like, Sukuna is actually like a demon. It's sealed inside somebody who will not help at all and shit talk you the whole time. There are very few animes that have that, because most of the time they're just silent and helpful. Like even for instance, like Kurama didn't like Naruto, but he still gave him his energy. Sukuna doesn't even do that.
Sukuna be chilling.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's why it's like, even though they did a few things different, Jujutsu Kaisen, honestly, for me, it hits on the typical shonen tropes, and it didn't do a bad job. But that's why I feel so neutral about it. Like, I don't feel like it was worth any of the freaking hype.
To be quite honest, I think its most unique aspect are probably its female characters. They all are very standout to me.
Okay, yeah,
they're very standout.
That's something I can agree with.
That's probably like their biggest difference. I feel like to most shonen genre stuff is that their female characters are very much standouts. Like each of them, I feel like are very unique and interesting.
That was my thing. When Jujutsu Kaisen dropped and all the hype was, I didn't see the hype like on the socials or whatever. It was like these people at work were talking about it. When they were like, "Oh, you have to watch Jujutsu Kaisen. It's great." It's like, if you like Demon Slayer, you should watch Jujutsu Kaisen. And then I watched it and I was like, why y'all make me watch this? Honestly, because I would have to agree with Ryun, like, there was some parts that I did like about it, but this wasn't just like a standout anime. Like, the fact that y'all compared this to Demon Slayer, prison.
I will say the fights are well animated, but not on I don't think it's Demon Slayer level animation.
Exactly. I guess the impact that Demon Slayer had on me versus the impact that this had on me is two different levels in my eyes. And I wouldn't say that I hated watching it, but the hype surrounding it versus what I actually watched did not match up.
Yeah, I agree. And then I'm gonna go ahead and touch on this a little bit since you already said it. Like the comparison between Demon Slayer and Jujutsu Kaisen is almost just non-existent because with Demon Slayer, it brought a different aspect, especially even with the choreography of their fights. The way they did they choreography their fights, it was basically we got to see some stuff we never seen before. Really, like that whole drum demon fight with versus Tanjiro, that was new. That was different. That was something we really never seen before. Most of all the fights in Jujutsu Kaisen, it just felt like I've seen this already, and it's just like, what am I? What am I watching? Like, where is the hype?
Yeah, even the most dynamic one, the tag team fight with Itadori
and Toto.
Toto, there you go. I was like, what is this name? I just remember Best Friendo. That's all I remembered.
Best the Friendo.
And we're gonna talk about that too, but I will say that was the best fight of the series.
Yeah, I'll give them that in a lot of ways. That visually stunning, but would I say it's different than a lot of things I've seen before? Not much, but it was hype. I'll give it that. Like, I really enjoyed that fight, but it wasn't like you were saying, like Tanjiro, like the fights that happen in Demon Slayer are very high frenetic fights and very different compared to a lot of things because the way the demons' abilities work and then the way the breathing techniques work. No two characters fight the same. And that's probably like why I'm just like Jujutsu Kaisen is a little bit different because it feels like if they don't got a weapon, then it's then it's like straight hands or some mystical stuff here, and it reminds me a little bit of Hunter x Hunter just without the well explained power system because Hunter x Hunter probably has like the best explained power system in anime, and JJK doesn't really do much of a good job at explaining their power system because every character kind of works on a different one, which I don't think is bad. It's just that they didn't really sell me on exactly how everything works because I was like, some people got bloodline art, some people don't. Some stuff is like related to the demon that cursed you. Like, it's not very well-roundedly explained, at least in this season.
So the comparison with Demon Slayer, for one, make something clear for me. Are we only comparing it to Demon Slayer because they came out around the same time?
Yeah,
I feel
like that's why most people compare them is because they're both new age stuff and they're both very well animated. Like Studio Mappa does a pretty good job at their fight scenes. Like, I don't think there was ever a fight that I felt like didn't look good. It just never reached like in my opinion, Demon Slayer fights, because Demon Slayer fights look great, but they're dynamic and like the way they do their fights are very dynamic because, like I said, no two characters fight the same. They use
another example.
All of them use the same
and Nezuko versus the Arrow Demon and the Ball Demon. That's a different fight, something we haven't seen before. Like maybe was just saying it, the way that fight plays out is just different. Like,
but then even with the fights though, it's like when it comes to like Demon Slayer, what makes it so much better than JJK in my opinion is the fact that the story was solid. Now I did read the manga. I'm a dirty manga reader, but that was a well written story.
So the thing with JJK of what I heard is that they tried to shove like 100 plus chapters in this first season to the point that some stuff was left out.
Yeah, I
That would
think
have
They did
contributed
leave
to
out
the story.
they did leave out the origins of the like, because the manga, if anyone's paying attention, the JJK Zero movie is supposed to be coming out sometime this month in Japan. That's actually like the beginning point of where the manga begins. Where we pick up with Itadori and them is technically the start of, I think, the central story of the manga, but that's not like the actual start.
So they did. What you're telling me is they did the anime different from the manga. That's what you're telling me.
Not well in terms of where it started, yes.
In terms of where it started.
The
So
contents are the same.
okay, but yeah, I guess what was the reason behind that decision then?
I think because the central story of where it does, of what JJK does tell, is focused around Itadori, or at least like
I guess
Itadori
yeah,
in the
focus on
first years.
Itadori. I guess and then they could
The-
tell the prologue with the movie. I guess.
Yeah, the prologue is about a whole different character.
Yeah.
That will whenever the movie makes it to America, we'll probably learn about.
Interesting. Because yeah, I haven't really. Because I forgot you was a manga reader, so I never really piqued your mind about some of the stuff that happened in the manga or not yet. And like,
I've only read some of it.
Okay.
I don't know. I want to read the manga because they said the manga, I guess, explains more. Like what McMillian was saying, it explains a bit more than the anime did. And I want to like JJK for reasons that we'll get into after this. So I may become a dirty manga reader for this one.
See, and that's the thing. Usually, I read manga when the anime is so good that I just can't wait through the hiatuses. I'm like, yeah, I gotta read this. This story is too amazing. That's usually what makes me read a anime's manga. I didn't get that sensation.
Okay, so basically, no, general consensus was basically, Jujutsu Kaisen, though it was a decent, show, it really wasn't nothing groundbreaking in any of our opinions, correct? Like it wasn't just, oh, this is a must watch. Like it's a good watch, but it wasn't like it definitely didn't, in my opinion, didn't deserve all the hype that it got.
Like it wouldn't be on my recommended list.
It wouldn't be like if I recommended 10 animes to somebody, JJK would not be one of them.
I probably if I had like a list of 10 things, but it would depend on the watcher for me. Like if it's a person I know likes high frenetic action with likable characters, because I don't necessarily dislike most of the characters of JJK, I'd probably recommend it to somebody for that reason. But I wouldn't be like, oh, this is, when I recommend it, I would be like, this is a fun watch. I wouldn't be like, this is something groundbreaking or something that you necessarily need to see.
But it wouldn't be the first thing that comes out of my mouth. Like we would have to go through. We would have to discuss several different animes before we go. Well, damn, you want to watch JJK?
Right.
Just sitting here chilling. Dang, I done recommended him this. I done recommended him that. I guess I'll tell him about Jujutsu.
Damn, I guess we could watch Jujutsu Kaisen.
I guess I'll tell him about Jujutsu. Okay, well, yeah, with this, our hot take, and so instead of keeping on the negative train going a little bit, we're gonna switch to a little bit of positivity, just so we don't keep the negative train going for a little bit too long. We're gonna come back to the negative train a little bit later, but we're gonna talk about some of our likes about the show. And I guess I'll start off with mine. One of my likes I do have about the show is, I guess, the general plot, in a sense. I do like the fact, because, okay, so the general plot is we have our main character, Itadori, and he stumbled upon a demon's finger, ate the demon's finger, and now he's possessed by the most powerful demon in the world, Sukuna. Okay, so and the whole plot is Gojira is going to use Gojira is going to use Itadori to go gather all of Sukuna's fingers, so that Itadori can eat and consume them, and basically become the full vessel of Sukuna, so Gojira can kill Itadori, which then force kills Sukuna. The reason why they got to go this method is because the fingers are virtually indestructible, and they're also hard to find as well. And with Itadori being the vessel, he's basically like a homing beacon to find the other fingers as well. So they can easily find them with using Itadori, as well as this gives them a way of quote unquote actually killing Sukuna.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
The synopsis that you just explained, do we get all of that from season 1?
Yes. You get it like in the
So
first
they,
three episodes.
so they explained that they were going to. I knew they were going to use Itadori to find all the fingers, but the plan was for Gojo to kill him after they got all the fingers.
I don't know if it's
Yeah.
necessarily. I don't know if it's necessarily Gojo, but basically the Society of Jujutsu Sorcerers, the top people they're basically
Yeah.
at the end after they get all the fingers are going to kill him. I'm not sure if it's Gojo going to do it personally.
I mean, Gojo said he was
But-
going to be the one to do it because, I mean,
Oh,
can't
okay.
nobody else. He mentioned how can't nobody else really beat him but him. So,
Okay.
I must.
but
have
yes, they
missed that
did
part.
explain this though. So, but other than that, I have a few more likes, but I'll let somebody else talk. They
Are we
can
doing
get some of their
untable
likes
type
out.
thing?
Yeah.
So I kind of already touched a little bit on it when I was mentioning it before. I do like the fights that do happen. All of them are very well nicely animated. Just not something like too dynamic. But I think the animation is very clean and very nice to look at. Besides that, just one more thing. Obviously, I am wearing this shirt for a reason. This is her show. This is Maki Zenon's show. This is the GOAT of this whole entire thing. She ain't even in the anime for that long, but she left the lasting impression because she beat everybody's ass. Okay,
Yes. Come on.
this motherfucker is a standout and probably one of the most interesting characters ever. It's kind of
Take your
sucks that she's
time,
not the main
McMillion.
character, but
Take your time.
this motherfucker right here is a problem. She needs to be thrown
Yes.
in a cell with the rest of the demons they don't want out because she is too raw. She had
Yes.
I'll say this: there aren't many animes where like the underpowered characters are so raw. Like this one, this is another unique thing about this show. Maki, for having no cursed energy at all, is probably one of the strongest people at Jujutsu Tech.
Yeah, I mean, she going hard. Point blank period.
Like my favorite scene of hers is probably when she's during the intramural like school competition, but like she was fighting her sister and her sister can create like stuff with her curse energy. She shoots a bullet made of curse energy and just
she
snatches
caught that
shit.
She caught that motherfucker. Man.
Just drops it. Too cold.
I remember seeing
the sauce is all there.
I paused it and rewind it. I had to watch this shit again. I said, did she just grab a damn bullet? But I have to agree with McMillion. Hence, I'm also wearing the shirt. And like even going past Maki, I think my favorite thing about Jujutsu Kaisen was the female characters in themselves. Because previous animes that I've watched, the female characters, some of them don't stand out, or you have female characters that stand out, but they stand out in secondary to the male MC
characters, yeah,
of the anime. But I would say that the female characters of Jujutsu Kaisen did leave an impression on me. Maki, her sister, and Nobara. I do have an issue with Nobara, but besides that issue with Babalina the Builder, which I deemed her, her character overall, and I also have to agree with McMillion. That fight between Maki and May, that was my favorite fight scene. So I did like the fight scenes in Jujutsu Kaisen, and I do like the anime, the way that they animated all of the different curses, the demons, the fights, etc. It gave it that darker demon type tone that that Jujutsu Kaisen is surrounded with. But that fight right there, that sold the anime for me. Unfortunately, you have to get like what 15 or so episodes in before you even make it to that fight.
Yeah, it's about like 15 plus, yeah.
Yeah. But when I did get there, I was like, these bitches going at it. And then Maki caught a damn bullet. Just supreme. Yes. So that.
All right. Any likes from you, Ryan?
I will say the animation for the fights was pretty fluid, so I will definitely give it that. The fights were definitely fluid, but in terms of what I liked, even though it kind of fell under a dislike or the reason for the hype, when I was watching JJK the whole time I was like, this feels nostalgic, and it feeling nostalgic is the reason that I kept watching it. Not necessarily like an interest in the story, but for the fact that it did feel familiar, I guess because it hit on all the shonen tropes, it made me go, okay, I can sit through this. Arguably, my favorite part of an arc was when the first years and the second years was going through like their little class battles. I love arcs like that in different series where you got a whole bunch of warriors or magic whatever users all under school. That's pretty like a common scene because I got to learn more about the characters. I got to see some of the character dynamics. Even in terms of favorite characters, I like Toge. Is that his name? The guy who speaks and his abilities come to life.
That
Toge
was
Inumaki.
Toji.
I might be Toji.
I don't know how to pronounce it, but you along those
Yeah,
lines, yeah.
he was my favorite character, but more so just because his power was pretty cool. I like the whole. I was like, why is this weird dude saying salmon and all this other stuff? Out of all the characters, he wasn't too extreme, like a panda and a robot and an old guy for guitar. He wasn't too extreme, but he was unique enough to where it caught my attention. Maki was cool, but I wasn't just sold on her in overall. And the Sasuke clone, Megami Fushiguro, he was
Not the Sasuke clone.
he basically is. Let's keep it a buck 50. And like I want to sound like I'm trash on the show or nothing because it's not bad. It's just in terms of what I like. Yeah, the action scenes were pretty fluid. So I've seen some animes where the action scenes were not fluid, and having those really brought out can make a lot for the show. Can really make or break a show. The story was decent, and some of the characters they were standout. I would love to see more of the ones that I particularly like, but more of the reason I like them is also because of their abilities as well.
Okay, I agree. Um, another another one of my likes, and I'm gonna piggyback off of what everybody's been saying so far, is definitely the tournament arc that happened in the anime. When the tournament arc first started happening, for me at least, that's when the anime felt like it really started picking up for me. And then, like
Hmm.
Ryan said, you got to see all the different curse techniques and stuff like that, and how they can actually vary from curse user to curse user. So when the tournament arc did start happening, I was like, okay, I can kind of see why people are giving the hype a little bit for this show now. But like these earlier parts, it was kind of like like oh whatever. But definitely once the tournament arc started, I was like, okay, yeah, if they give me more of this, then I will agree with everybody. I could start fucking with this. And looks like we lost McMillian, everybody, but he'll be back soon.
But I guess
Um,
my thing is that everybody out of all four of us, we have deemed the tournament art like the arc of JJK season one.
yeah, I
However,
agree.
15 episodes though. We had to watch 15 plus episodes because I don't remember exactly when the tournament arc started to actually get to something that we felt like was worth watching.
Yeah. I think maybe like the only other thing that really happened that was a standout before the tournament arc was that Gojo fight versus Jogo, the lava demon. Other than that, if you can even call that a fight, I guess it was really one sided. But
Yeah.
that was really the only other standout, really, in my opinion, before the tournament arc. And that's really only because you got to really see how strong Gojo was, and they explain more of Gojo powers. And we'll talk a little bit more about Gojo a little bit later. Um, Once McMillian get back in, there he is now, back in the show.
Sorry, I
Welcome
don't know
back,
what.
McMillian.
It froze. Welcome to God.
But yeah, so yeah, like I was saying, that was really the only standout before the tournament part was that whole fight with Jogo and Gojo. They kind of got similar names. That's funny
Yeah.
actually.
We ran out of names. Can we talk about that part where Nobara was fighting the witch girl? And
Yes,
she
I
was
mean, it's part
basically
of the tournament arc. We in the
she
tournament arc part of the episode, so yeah, why not?
count she was basically trying to get this girl brain damage with a squeaky hammer because y'all remember she wasn't using her regular hammer and you just see her going in with this Fisher Price toy hammer and I was like, God damn.
Yeah, yeah. I would like to say
I
that I do like the fact that she thought about it. She was like, I can't hit. If I hit her with my regular hammer, I might actually kill this girl. So she was like, let me just
They
pull out
they
something
showed
else.
they showed her bashing this girl head in from 6 different angles with this squeaky hammer.
I thought that was hilarious, but that was a fun one because that fight was cool because you got to see how like she thought like lowered her into that situation, like how
Mhm.
she lowered her into close enough to hit because like she was like they were totally opposites in terms of like long range to short range combat. But she was able to lead her into that attack, which I thought was hilarious.
Yeah. And then, like I said before, the Terminator arc was really when we started to get to see, the various uses of the People's Curse techniques. Because before then, all we saw from Nobara was her throwing nails at demons and then using the little demon, the doll curse technique to hurt the demons and stuff like that. That's all we saw. We didn't get to see her methodically place different nails in different places to set up traps and stuff like that. Like we didn't get to see that before the tournament arc, and that's when I was like, okay, Nobara, I thought you was just like Foop was saying about the building, but you out here actually putting in thought into your fight. You know what? Props to you. Props to you.
We still on likes, right?
Yeah, we still on likes.
An earlier one, I think for me, besides like the tournament art one, when Itadori had to interact with that kid, what's his name? Junpei? Was it Junpei? When they had to interact with Junpei, and we get the classic trying to change a character from like the dark side who has potential to the good side, and it ends in disaster, and they put this man in the intro.
I just wanted, yes. Why?
And I was like, this is great.
They put this man in the intro. Not only that, this man is wearing the Jujutsu clothes.
They gave him a uniform.
Gave this man a whole... If that was not the biggest fuck you I've seen in a minute inside of anime.
Honestly, I'm down with y'all, because I was like, oh, they about to meet the kids, so is they gonna does he have significance? Like, are they gonna bring him into school? And then he just straight out died, and I was like, oh.
And the way it happened too, I was like, okay, they obviously gonna bring him back. This was like a heartfelt goodbye, and then next episode they just kept walking. I was like, hey, yo, he in the intro, right?
What?
Didn't they switch intros after that?
Yes. I was like, what the fuck?
I think they switched intros after that, and I was like, oh, okay.
So he really not gonna be in the school, huh?
Exactly. I was like, God damn. But I like that. But I really that's a unique thing I will give Jujutsu Kaisen. Most anime openings are probably tried and true. And Jujutsu Kaisen, they're like, nah, question everything, motherfucker. Question every goddamn.
They pulled an 86 on this.
They did.
What?
They did.
I'm done. Got him up out of there real quick.
Real swift, like. And his curse technique was dope too. Like the whole like poisonous jellyfish thing. I was like, okay, they gonna be able to use this real well. He out here controlling his shit real nice too.
They sacrificed him for the grandpa with the guitar.
That threw me off so bad.
That made me mad. That made me upset. Can we get the dislikes? Can we
that whole scene made me cringe.
The grandpa scene or
the grandpa scene, because one thing about the grandpa talked so much shit. Let's start there. He talked so much shit that when shit hit the fan and he showed up with a goddamn guitar, and didn't even do anything. So this whole time I'm like, okay, this is their Netero equivalent in JJK.
Giryusai Yamamoto.
And
like, this is a lot.
The difference is Netero is OP as fuck.
And exactly. So I'm like, okay, the old dude finna pop up. What's his curse? His curse power, whatever. He pulled out a damn guitar and didn't do nothing. And I was like, so you sat in that room up there and talked all that shit to come down here and do nothing? You could have stayed up there. And they showed him multiple times. It wasn't like guitar, go to everybody else. They kept going back to him multiple times during that whole sequence, and I was like, why are we watching this? He's doing absolutely nothing to help this situation.
He was basically just there at that point. He was just there.
He took out one dude.
And probably
probably the most least threatening person there.
That. And I was like, what was the point? You could have stayed upstairs, honestly.
Yeah. But before we do move on to dislikes, one last like I did have was one that McMillan mentioned earlier was how when most anime tropes is the biggest threat is an enemy, but in this case the biggest threat is actually somebody on our side, and so I just thought that was different because not only does for the evil group in this anime for them to successfully fail their plot, they have to remove Gojo out of the picture. And
I
they came to the
mentioned it.
conclusion that they can't kill the motherfucker, so they gotta seal this motherfucker.
They kicked him out.
They
Nope.
they came up with that real swift too. Like it's not even something that like takes half a season. They're just like, nah, get him
No.
out. We
Look,
can't do it without him.
when he
Exactly.
defeated what's the demon name? Jogo? When
Yeah,
they saw that
Jogo.
jump went down, they said he has to go. Immediately after it went down, they said he has to go.
So yeah, I
But
just
we
think
have to
that
destroy everybody else. No, the first
But-
thing we need to do is get rid of him.
Get him about.
so that is one thing I will give Jujutsu Kaisen in terms of uniqueness, in the fact that somebody on our side is actually a real threat to the enemy side, and that they actually have to deal with before they can even go on with their plan that they're trying to do. So they have to come up with another plan to enact their initial plan. So I'll give them that. But so we're gonna move on to dislikes now, and I have a big dislike. Is some of you may or may not agree with it, but before I get to mine, does anybody want to go first?
I want to hear yours first. You didn't pull me in.
You've drawn me in with that
You
statement.
drew me
Okay.
in with that statement.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. Alex.
So I'll go
ahead.
first. One of my main dislikes of this show is I'm just going to put it out there: domain expansion.
Yes.
I do
supposed
think
to
it's
be-
stupid.
It's supposed to be their. If I could compare it to something, this is their equivalent to Bankai from Bleach. Basically, this is their domain expansion. It's their. I call it an I win button, in my opinion. So I'm just giving a brief rundown of basically what it is. They use their cursed energy to bring upon this innate domain, and any cursed techniques imbued within that domain are guaranteed to hit their target. What? So it's basically it's just like this is literally just like an I win button, and then the only way to deal with a domain expansion is to either just straight up block the curse techniques using another curse technique, or going outside of the domain, which is damn near impossible to do anyways, and then or thirdly, cast your own domain down. And my issue with the latter, which is casting your own domain down, which just bring me back to my other point, which is just an I win button, because basically whoever has the strongest domain, their domain takes over. And so it's just like
They going back and forth. Domain.
It doesn't
Look,
seem like it could last that long. Like their little power system, like with the domain expansion, it doesn't. I don't see how this could last for another couple of seasons as an interesting ability or a go-to battle tactic.
yeah,
I
because
mean,
like
the only thing I guess that would make it interesting is just to see like different kinds. But you're not wrong. I think if every fight just eventually gets to domain expansion, like it's not gonna be interesting. And if it's such an I win, but I like the last time I accepted an I win button, I was like 10, and that was the snitch. Is that what it's called in Quidditch?
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, I was like, look, as a child, when I wasn't thinking about how games work, I was like, this is cool. But as an adult, I'm like, wait, so I do all this work just for some other motherfucker to catch
That's what I'm
a bug,
saying.
a golden bug, and they automatically win? What the fuck is this?
I done broke my arm.
What are we doing?
I feel you on
But
that one, Ace. I definitely felt like that was a definite
only thing
I win button.
The only thing I could compare it to in other animes is in Fate, there's a skill called Reality Marble, which is basically somewhat the same thing, but it doesn't guarantee you a win. It just gives you a super advantage to possibly win.
Yeah.
Because
But then there's noble
you're-
phantasms that can counter that. Like some
yeah,
noble
exactly.
phantasms
There's
are
other
reality
things.
marble.
There's other things
Yeah.
to get around a Reality Marble. It's just it's a pretty. But if you are in the Reality Marble, basically you have the biggest advantage of winning. But
Yeah.
with domain expansion, it's like, look, man,
we just gonna keep doing domain expansion until one of us get it, and if that's the case, that's gonna get boring as fuck.
Because
Real fast.
they didn't give me any more like they didn't give me a deep enough explanation of like how some of these domain expansions fight can go, because the only ones we saw was where Gojo like I said, he used his domain expansion to completely get rid of Jogo's, and that once that happened, it's just an I win button. And the only reason why Jogo technically didn't win that because he cast his first is because it's Gojo. We already know how strong he is. He's the OP character of the show. The other example we got was when Itadori and one of the higher ups, I can't remember his name right now. Give me a second. Kento, there we go. Kento was fighting Mahito, the little hand demon, whatever.
The guy who can change the shape of your soul.
Yeah. That his domain expansion is basically an I win button as well. But the only reason why he didn't win was because Itadori has Sukuna in him.
Yeah, basically the only way to get, like you said before, you can break into one and stop it, because their domains are weak from the outside, so you can break in. But the thing is, no one usually wants to do that, because the moment you're inside someone's
domain expansion, you're at a huge disadvantage, basically.
Yeah.
And so
the only reason it worked for Itadori is because if you touch Itadori's soul, you touch Sukuna's soul, and Sukuna don't like being touched. She said restraining order, bitch.
Which was another dope moment, and then brings us back to the point where Sukuna, he's not a demon he's not here to help anybody. He's here he's here for him. You know what I mean? Like, he's here for him, which is another unique aspect of it. But yeah, just the whole domain expansion idea is it needs more depth to it, in my opinion. Like, for instance, like, okay, they said that whoever has the strongest domain or whatever, will dominate that space. But what happens if two curse users are equal? Does it like make a mixed domain and we just like have an equal battle in sort of sense? Like, is that a possibility?
Yeah. Then what's the point? What's the point of the domain? What's the point of the domain if it's that though? Like,
I mean, because I guess it's like we're both like part of the domain is yours, part of it is mine, and it's
but I'm saying like but I mean I think that brings up a pretty good point. If they're equal in power, doesn't it just make it a regular fight then?
I don't know. Because that's why I'm asking. Like, it needs more in depth to it, in my opinion. It needs more.
Your dislike relates into mine, because my thing, I feel like my biggest gripe with JJK is the power system isn't fleshed out. Like, I don't know. Like, for instance, they explain like normally for you to use curse technique, you have to be born with curse energy, and that's how you get your own. Like, each person is special because they're technically born with it, or you get special ones if like a demon possesses you. Like, for instance, they say Itadori will eventually be able to use Sukuna's curse technique because that's the demon that's like inside him. But my thing is, okay, but like, how does that work? Because like, for instance, Megumi's apparently is like a part of his bloodline. But I'm just like, if there are other people in his bloodline, how do they get different ones? Like, what's like the percentage here? Like, because I mean, like with the Uchihas, they explain like, oh, they get Sharingan, they get Sharingan, but it's not as potent when you first activate it or something like that. Like they kind of break that down. Same thing with Byakugan. But in this show, they're just like bloodline, and they don't explain it any further. Because I'm just like, how does someone develop it without it?
I got this from my mama. My mama gave me these powers.
I got this from my daddy's side.
But you did touch on a good point though, Jay, because is that something that if we don't get in season 2, could we still stick to the show? Like, in terms of, hey, I need y'all to really go in depth and help me as a viewer to understand what exactly is going on. Because I want to see, how do these domain expansions, do they get stronger? I want to see what happens when you go against somebody and their curse just completely obliterates your domain, but then their curse can't beat you. Does it just go back to hands or their secondary abilities? How do you level them up? I feel like a lot of that needs to be further explained. I feel like a lot of it got to be further explained.
I think the other thing that I want to get explained, because this is my other, it kind of ties in with McMillian's saying. So the power system's not explained, and then they also don't explain like why people have these specific curse objects. Going back to Nobara, why the hell did you pick hammer and nails to fight demons?
My thing is, how do you discover if that's her curse technique? How did she discover that?
Exactly.
And then going back to the old dude with the guitar, out of all the things, you picked a guitar?
Well, my thing is like, did he? That's what. But I'm saying like the way they explain it is that curse techniques are like something that you just innately have, right? Like if you're unless you're possessed or come in contact with like a demon and you somehow, you gain it later. Did he pick? Did he try to join a band one day and kill people
That's
accidentally
what
Right,
or
I'm
some
like does
shit?
he
saying.
love
I think
music and that's how he got a guitar?
the only usage of curse objects that made sense to me was Maki's, because Maki has no curse energy whatsoever, and then the objects that she uses, like her glasses, allows her to see curses. So I was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay. And then the weapons that she has allows her to kill the curses.
Right.
And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
that whole explanation with her character makes sense. But everybody else's, like her sister has a gun and she can make as many bullets as she wants to. And I was like, it's cool to watch, but what led you to
Well, it's not she can make it. Well, if she was good with her ability, she could. She's actually sorry with it. I mean, they say it in the anime. They say like she can't make that much. Like that bullet took all, like that one bullet that she made, because she uses normal bullets or rubber regularly. That one bullet that she made took up all of her energy, and you saw what happened to it.
Yeah.
You saw what happened to it.
Do that shit on the ground real fast. Like but my thing is like, if you're not born into a family, how would you know what your thing is, or like how does that come about even?
Yes, how do you discover that? How do you discover?
Because I'm just like, for instance, like let's talk about Nanami, for instance. Did he just one day at his 9 to 5 just get roided out and like break a desk, and he was like, well, I'm a Jujutsu sorcerer now, and I'm just like, nigga, what?
Because they didn't really. Also, when with a lot of these power shown in animes and stuff like that, there's like this little test they normally do to find out like what archetype or whatever powers you have and stuff like that, to kind of further explain, break down the power level system, stuff like that. We didn't get anything like that either.
I saw no leaves in a cup. I saw no leaves in a cup.
The only thing we got that was somewhat similar to this, and when Itadori was training to control his spiritual energy. Yeah, I didn't mind that, but it didn't really explain like cursed curses, like curse techniques themselves. They explained how curse energy works, which I was like, oh, but I mean, like, I feel like if you watch any anime with an energy with a power system, we all know about like chakra or
magic,
nin,
mana,
or
spiritual pressure.
Yeah, like those are super simple. Those are so common to the point where you could drop me in an anime world and be like, oh, we have this reserve energy called like water, and I'd be like, oh, I know what that is. You don't even gotta show me like a diagram. Like I get it. It's like
we know it's in your core, and you charge it. We get it.
It's in your core. It goes throughout. You can, depending on how your hands move, or depending on what words you say, you do special shit. Like I get it. Like that's super simple. Like that's in almost every shonen. But like the curse techniques themselves, I'm like, okay, this is this is what sets you apart. How do these work?
Yeah,
and I feel like they were just like, they just do it.
They just do it. They just curse technique.
Right. We just do it. I have a hammer. I have a guitar. I have dogs. Why?
Is basically, I guess it's
dogs
also a question, is your curse
something
technique
else.
Sort of say whatever special thing you can do? Is that your curse technique in a sense?
I mean, I think based on what it shows, yeah, it seems like it. Like for instance, Megamu can summon shadow animals. That's like his thing. Gojo's is the ability of infinity, but like they don't go into like what exactly. Like we know that they're bloodline related, but other than that, I don't know like what makes the ones who don't have bloodlines, like how do they get theirs besides, I guess, interacting with the demon. And then is it the demon that gives them the ability, or is it just random at that point?
And I'm going to touch up on Megami a little bit, but before we do that, Ryan and Foop, do you guys have any dislikes you want to discuss about the show
that weren't touched, I guess?
Yeah, that weren't already just touched upon.
I did my big ones, but my last small pet peeve, other than the female characters, I was not feeling the male characters in this show at all. And I don't know if that's a bad. It's like, I guess stepping away from the male characters, I don't know if I like Itadori, like the main character, and that's not. I wouldn't say that's a failure on their part, because I have watched animes where the MC is not my favorite character, but you have to give me something to at least like them.
Yeah,
and they
I
did
feel
not
you.
give
especially
me they didn't give me anything to like about Itadori.
especially well the only thing that I somewhat similar I could take him or leave him really, but the only thing I kind of like about Itadori is that he's kind, but most main MCs are kind.
Yeah.
Like
But I gotta say, like, Itadori as a main character, he didn't really impact me. Let
That
alone the big three in the show, regardless, like the Naruto, Sakura, Sasuke with their
I like
Kakashi Sensei
I'll say
trio.
this
Like they didn't really catch my heart, my interest, honestly.
I'll say this I them individually well I don't know I read ahead of it a little bit so I like Megami a little bit more for the stuff I know now. But when I was watching the show, I couldn't really get a read on who out of them I really gravitated towards the most.
Hmm.
But their dynamic as a team, I like. I will say, like they're
okay.
enjoyable.
Yeah.
And to
Yeah,
all three of them together is very enjoyable. I like to because they feel like they just feel like normal friends in the friend group. They're all like Nobara and Itadori are fools that get on Megami's last nerve. But Megami is also secretly a fool, just as much as a fool. He's just a high energy like them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I
hmm,
like how they feel like the average high school teenagers, just with doing just like curse work shit. But
Yeah.
they other than that, like you could put them in a slice of life, and I'd be like, this is a nice friend group. Like that's something I do enjoy about them. But I do agree with Ryan. None of the main group really stood out and grabbed me until I kind of got further into the story when I decided to like read a little bit more because I was just like this first season was good, but I had to really sit here and think about it. I'm like, I need to see if the rest of the stuff is hitting up because the way people are talking about it, I'm like, y'all got to know something more than I do. And I got to see,
McMillian was like, "That's it. That's it.
yeah, because I'm like, there's no
There
way,
was nothing else. That ain't no
because
end
there was,
credit scene or nothing."
because, because Jujutsu Kaisen is so, like, the manga is so popular, it's one of the most high selling ones. It
Yeah.
kind of, like, it
Currently.
stays,
Yeah.
like, I think, it stays, like, around, like, the top 4 or 5 normally when, like, they do, like, end of the year sale, like, reports from manga. So I was just like, there's got to be more than just this. And I got to, like, the second big arc, and I was like, oh, I now see why you guys are talking about this. This is actually, from here point forward, is actually super interesting. But like before, I was like, this doesn't seem like this has much staying power right now. Like it's fun to watch, which is great. I don't think that's bad or anything. Like it's, but to me, that doesn't provide staying power. Fun doesn't really provide much staying power. It's when we get to the nitty gritty. And look, I will say if this does get season 2, which it most likely does, it was still, even though it wasn't, I don't think it lived up to the hype. It was very popular, so I would assume it's getting the second season at some point
I would
because it's getting a
assume.
so
movie.
so so I got a question, Jay. Being someone who said once you read ahead, you now understood what probably most of the manga readers were saying, why everybody was so hyped up. If it wasn't overhyped, if we didn't have like all the social media and stuff, like you was just watching season one, like take it back to back when we was in high school and we had old Instagram, and you was just sitting here watching this by yourself, would you be so ecstatic for season two, or would you even look forward to season two, or even sit
If
through season one?
I think I would only because I think if this had come out when I was in high school, it would still feel like most of the stuff in it would still feel relatively new. But where we're at now, where we have animes like where we got like stuff like Tokyo Ghoul, which kind of flipped the shonen genre on a little bit on its head, and like we get stuff like Demon Slayer, where the characters are a little bit more, the characters in the fights are a little bit more dynamic, and there's such a different variety
The rise
of
of
players.
isekais.
Yeah, and then we
Yeah,
get
that.
isekais that have like different power systems, and they do pretty good jobs at explaining. Well, the very popular ones do a pretty good job at explaining like their power systems in the world. I probably would because I mean like the caliber of anime that we're getting right now, where like story and action have have a great blend compared to like back then where there was obviously much heavier focus on action than there was necessarily like making the super fleshed out story a narrative. JJK probably would have fit a little bit. At least the first season would have fit a little bit somewhere back there than compared to like now. Like I think currently it doesn't have a bad one, but I feel like there are things that it didn't. There are things it didn't describe in season 1. I think that hurt it. Like I think that they should have spent a little bit more time trying to flesh out this world, this narrative that they were making because it doesn't. The people don't feel. I feel like the people that agree with us that don't probably might not feel like this was the word the hype. We're missing those key elements, those explanations of how do these things work or uh,
what, like, if you got such a powerful dude, why is this even like a threat? You know, like things like that. Like, there's stuff that we're missing. Like, I know because I read ahead now that there's stuff that is coming, and there's a reason for the hype. It's just that we haven't seen it yet. Like, it actually does kind of make a standing point in the later stuff, but that season 1, I don't think would have probably fit towards our animes of old, which isn't necessarily bad because most of our animes we like now are inspired by shit like that. So yeah, I just think currently they should have probably stuck to a little bit more explain heavy in the front, and then later on because like it mixes in with like the good action and stuff like that. Because I think that they focus a little bit too much on the action and the characters and not the world that they live in, and it leads people not to be as attached to the things that are happening.
I agree.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I want to get one of my other dislikes, and sadly, it's in my favorite arc of the season, the tournament arc. So arguably, like I said, the best episodes of the anime, episode 19 and episode 20, when Toto and Itadori was fighting the special grade demon Hanami.
I do like Toto.
Yeah, he's likable. The thing that really upset me was how fast Itadori just sat here and learned Black Flash.
Like, how you mastered it?
Yes, it was like there's no like we got to spend at least a week on this. No, at least when I tried out the first time, I'm gonna mess it up or something. This is Toto. I'm Toto.
I mean,
Itadori. I'm gonna teach you how to use this super powerful move. That's like one of the pinnacle technique in like 2 hours. You ready? Sure. Yeah, let's go.
No sense of progression.
I think the only thing that didn't upset me about that is that they already said Itadori was kind of a quick study, and then they also kind of referenced the zone. Like if anyone knows Crocodile's Basket, it's a reference to like when athletes hit like the pinnacle of like where their mind is just focused on nothing but the game.
Be that as it may.
I mean, no, I don't disagree. I don't disagree with you. Now that I'm thinking about it, you're not wrong. I was like, damn, like 5 minutes, my nigga. But I won't sit here and lie that shit wasn't hype as fuck.
No, it was hype, but it just felt like kind of a cop out. Like we got this special grade demon that's sitting here wreaking havoc, and now all of a sudden I'm finna learn this move. Like I said, within about an hour, I can't remember the time frame, but it was a small time frame. Right. I'm finna sit here and learn this super powerful move in a very short time. That's gonna help us win this battle. Basically, it's just. It just felt like a small little cop out in my opinion. Though it was hype and it was good, that part right there just felt.
I totally see it now. But when I was in the moment, I was like, "Yo, this is the shit."
Yeah, like from a critiquing type of view, I am sitting here like it would have been better if he'd been trying to learn that a few weeks ahead. Gojo told him about it or something.
Or I mean, Nanami did, and he like, I guess if it turned into one of those things to where. Yes, I learned the move super fast, but there's some cost to it.
Correct. It wasn't like none of that. Like even like I said, when he used it the first time, it's not like he messed it up or anything. He just straight Black Flash on your ass.
He didn't break his arm or nothing, or even go into like Like another example is like when they like with Fairy Tail when the first whatever guild master had learned the big spell. She did it.
Fairy Law.
She mastered
or
it.
Fairy Glitter.
Fairy Law or something like that. She mastered it.
No, Fairy Glitter. You're talking about Wakana, yeah.
She mastered it. Heck yeah. But in terms of her using it as an inexperienced user, she had to live in a child's body for the rest of her life. So I could have went with it that he learned it that fast, but I feel like coming out of it, because this is your first time using it, you should have had some side effect, some detrimental side effect that, yes, you learned it, but you're not supposed to use it or learn it this way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, they did do, the first time he attempted it, Toto did stop him and was like, hey, what did he do, slap him or something? I forgot what he did because he told him to readjust. But you're not wrong. I do think it should have been probably a little bit more than just that the first time around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But other than that, like I said, the whole that whole fight sequence, episode 19 and 20, it was lit. Like
Mm-hmm.
those are the type of more fights I want to see from Jujutsu Kaisen. I know we can't get that, every episode because it was a lot of moving parts and stuff going around in those 2 episodes, but it was lit. I guess also one of my gripes from the show is though, like how everybody's saying is, the fights have been beautifully well animated. I just don't think that the fights, in my opinion, were that good in general. In my opinion, until like I said, we really started getting to the tournament arc.
Do you
None
have
of- Mhm.
Do you have any like top fights? Because I have like 3 top fights I think from JJK, and they all happen in their arc. It's Todo Itadori.
I have one top fight that did not happen in that arc, but most of my top fights did happen in the arc. So my 3 top fights are Todo and Itadori versus Hanami.
Mm-hmm.
Maki versus Sawi. That shit was fire. That shit was fire. I ain't gonna keep going through that. And then my other top fight I had was Mahito versus
Nanami.
Nanami. The first fight that was lit.
Yeah. For me, the ones that were standout, even though it was cut short, I did like Megami versus that the arrow dude. Is that Sawi or?
I enjoyed that fight too. Not even gonna lie, Jay. I enjoyed that fight too.
Like the guy who could manipulate his blood. That was a pretty fun. But even though it was cut short, I did really like that fight because it was I like the tactics in it because it was a very like this guy is long range. I'm like somewhat like a mid range fighter. How do I deal with this threat? Maki versus Sawi, like you said, / Maki coming help doing the assist with Hanabi at the first time. That was she messed that motherfucker. God damn. And Itadori, and obviously the standout fight of the season, which was Itadori. But like you said, but I do agree now. Like looking back, most of the other fights weren't weren't the best. They all looked good though, but they weren't like probably the best. And like a lot of them were pretty short too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But they were fun to watch, I guess, is the takeaway.
I think it's going back to Ace's point. Like when we got into the tournament arc, that's where we got to. Because all of my favorite fights, and you guys listed most of them, came from the tournament arc. It's because we got to see
I'll
more.
be right back, guys.
And then the biggest thing is that we got to see, I guess with the few examples that we talked about, is that we got to see the characters actually think about how they would approach the situation based on how other people fight. So just watching all of that unfold made that whole arc and every fight within it A1 steak sauce.
I don't know how long he's gonna take to get back, so I don't know if I should move on to the next segment or if I should continue. But I guess while we're waiting, something we could discuss. How long do you think it's gonna take for the evil side, obviously, to get Gojo under reins? I guess I should ask.
So is that
I
the
don't
goal,
know,
basically, to
'cause
like?
They're trying to get rid of Gojo. That's what
they're
it
trying to get rid
sounds
of Gojo
like.
so they can their plan for I hope Ace is not getting attacked by his dog.
Look at Ron's face.
That sounded violent.
Ron's face like he in a damn room.
Wait, that sounded like a violent bark.
That's not the first time Sebastian has interjected on this here podcast.
Look, y'all finna cut this part out. Go ask your question again, Jay.
But he was saying
listen,
how
like,
long
how
it
long
would
do y'all
take them to get to Gojo. And my thing is I don't know if they have figured Gojo out to even have a plan of how they're going to get them. Because their plan at the end of season 1 was, let's make the seal and everybody can get in but Gojo. Okay. I don't think the evil side completely understand Gojo yet to make an elaborate plan to take him out the picture. So I think the better question is, at what point do they fully have Gojo mapped out? Then we go after Gojo.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, because I think I know what's going on here, but I'm not mistaken, the whole next arc is gonna be about them sealing Gojo, if I'm not mistaken, correct? Because it's like that.
I mean, they got some equipment from. We found out that the fight at JJK was basically a diversion for somebody to sneak in and grab some stuff from some like cursed items from Jujutsu Tech that's supposedly going to help them take Gojo out. But I mean, I was asking them like how long they thought it's going to take for them to try to basically get him under the effects of those items or like locked
Okay.
down.
I'm not sure. I would, you would think that they're gonna carefully take their time and plot this out, because if they get it wrong, then this is probably, in my opinion, this is probably like a one shot thing. It's either we're gonna succeed or we're gonna fail, and like that's it. So, pretty hopefully they would take their time and actually plan this out.
Yeah,
And
that's
then
what,
then if they actually do succeed, it's going to be interesting to see how like the rest of the series starts playing out with them not having Gojo on their side.
Or is it just
That's
one
what
of
I'm
those
saying,
things
like
that
it's
they left out of season 1? Like, because as Million brought up, they did steal some tools from Jujutsu that's supposed to help them stop Gojo. So does that mean that did they steal the tools with the intention that we know these tools for sure are going to take Gojo down, or did they just go in and steal the most powerful curse items and just are hoping that this will
That is
stop
going to take
Gojo?
them down. Yeah,
And that's where I'm saying.
That's a good question.
That's what
a
I'm
good
saying.
question.
Like, I don't know if they fully understand Gojo yet to be like, okay, we have a plan to take him down.
Yeah,
that's what I was like. She was somewhat like close to Hoops because she was just like she's wondering if they're going to take the time to actually fully understand what they need to do with
with the stuff. Yeah, no, that's a good question. Yeah, I would hope so. I would hope so.
I
Because it
I
sounds
guess
like
my
they
whole
just went in
thing
there and
is
stole some shit and gonna hope for the best.
my whole thing is how long is the Gojo dynamic, him being the strongest in the show, going to last? Because in a lot of shows, it's like, yeah, the main character got plot protection, like as the main character gets stronger and stronger. But right now, we got a character who essentially can't get beat. It don't even seem like their goal is to beat him; it's to capture him, seal him, or distract him long enough to accomplish their mission. I want to know how long that trend or that theory or that dynamic is going to last in the series, or if it gets to a point where Gojo is eliminated or disabled or handicapped in a way, what becomes the next biggest threat?
Yeah, I feel you.
I
And
because
then
I don't think that dynamic, from my perspective, is going to last longer. If they make it last for too long, it becomes less interesting because it's
Yeah.
like we got the OP person on this side, on the good
yeah,
side, and the whole point is to see conflict. I don't want to feel like through season 2 and probably season 3 or 4, since the manga seems to be ongoing. I don't want to feel like, oh, Gojo's here, so we all know it's going to be all right at some point.
yeah.
That's less interesting.
When the show was first airing, I saw a tweet. I can't remember who it was, but somebody basically tweeted out, said Jujutsu Kaisen is basically wait for Gojo to arrive the anime, and I was like, you know what?
For the first season, yeah, that's basically the whole damn show.
Wait for Gojo to arrive the anime. Goddamn.
That was the second episode.
Or wait for Gojo.
And that dynamic gets boring at some point.
The one time he didn't show up, Itadori died.
Yeah.
That part.
This is what happens when we don't wait for Gojo.
And
don't do it again.
And the second time it happened, Megumi almost died. So
yeah. I'm real quick. I don't know if y'all talked about this when I was gone. Ryan and Foop, did you guys give your top 3 fights from the season?
My top 3 fights, my number 1 fight, I did like Maki versus Mei. It didn't last long, but I think learning their backstory and then leading up to the fight. Because when you first meet Mei, she's basically a bitch. And I was like, okay, what's your issue? What's your beef? And then you find out that Maki's her sister and their personalities basically contrast. So then it's like, okay. But then when we get to the tournament arc, we find out why Mei is upset. It is not that she's just a flat out bitch. It's because she has some resentment towards Maki for leaving her at their childhood home when their father was basically abusive to both of them. So I was like, okay, I feel everything up to this point. I feel this fight. I like this fight. I do like.
Yeah, that was probably one with the most emotional stake.
And that's why it's my number 1, because the rest of them were like, okay, we're just fighting. And I did like Toto Itadori versus her name. I can't remember that.
Hanami.
Hanami.
Yeah.
I did like that one because then it's like now you guys are fighting like this big ass demon. Like this is the biggest one that we've seen.
Yeah, and
throughout the
it
whole
was the most
series.
dynamic with one thing I really like about that fight. Toto's ability is so simple, but they made it so like the way they weaved it in was so perfect.
Yeah.
Like it was it showed, like in any other anime you'd be like, this nigga clap. What are we doing here? But I was like, okay, this is kind of dangerous. I was like, hold on now.
I think those were the only two fights that stood out to me. I do like the tournament art and the rest of the fights, but the ones that stood out to most to me were those two. I don't know if I have a top
three. Okay, Ryan, you got a top three?
If I had to take away the Maki fight, I would say, of course, Toto and Itadori, but that's because Toto was honestly the fun-loving character and I liked it. Megami against the Arrow dude, I like that Jay did bring that up because that fight, I like the tactics, I like the strategy, and Megami is a character that did interest me, mostly because of Sukuna being interested in him, and I'm like, okay, what is that leading into? That did catch my interest. I want to see what happens to the Sasuke clone. I love Sasuke. And then also the fight that got all the gifts on Twitter with Itadori Nanami versus that the demon that got all the
Mahito
money.
getting jumped.
Yeah.
Yeah, that fight, I'm not gonna lie. Watching it live, I was like, okay, straight hands.
That is like my honorable mention.
That one becoming a GIF, I did feel like that GIF alone probably attracted a lot of people to JJK. But watching the fight, it was like, okay, y'all throwing hands. I'm content with this.
Y'all throwing, they was throwing hands. I'll give you
They were
that.
throwing
That was
hands.
that's why like I said, the first fight between Nami and Mahito was one of my favorites because they was throwing blows. They was going
They
at it.
and you don't see that. I'm gonna be honest. I'll give JJK this. You don't normally just see a lot of shows, especially in anime, where it's just straight hands. You see them throw blades. They'll take a pause, take a breathe, and argue. But like it was straight hands for a good minute. I was like, okay, I
They
like
was
it.
throwing hands. But
Yeah,
before we move on to our last topic of the day, I do want to ask this question. What do you guys think is so special about Megami? Because as Ryan just said before, for whatever reason, Sukuna has some whatever pull towards him. He has a liking to him.
I can't answer this.
Okay, so you know this. Fuck you.
Yeah, sorry.
I think it has to do with the bloodline thing because you have. I see it as one of those. You always have the interest into like you were born into this type characters, like how Orochimaru is with Sasuke. Like you have something in your bloodline. I've seen this before. I've seen this potential. So
okay,
I'm gonna see what you can do. But I'm watching you.
But I'm okay. Ryan, any thoughts?
I think it is like a hidden power, or the fact that he probably would have been a good host for Sukuna as well, or something of that nature. I do think it like kind of like what Portia said. Is it could just be simply, oh, this guy is strong, and me being a badass, I like other badasses because I want to fight him, or like an Ahsoka type mindset. Like I want to whoop on this person who is about to develop into something great. It seems like it's going that route, or it might be like some secret in his blood, some curse that will probably benefit Sukuna in the long run that Sukuna has noticed. I think it's one of those two.
Okay. Yeah, I would have to agree because on those terms, of like maybe it's some type of secret and stuff like that. Because when Megami first did his domain expansion, whatever, he like recalled like the flashback to where like Sukuna was like interested in him and stuff like that. And so I guess part of his domain expansion has to deal with maybe what's so special about Megami because we didn't get to see his full domain expansion. We only saw like an incomplete form of it, so we don't know what it truly is just yet. We only saw the little incomplete form of it, and it looks from what we saw from short bits of it, it does look like it's gonna be something to fuck with, once he masters it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so it might probably something with that as well.
His side win button isn't fully developed.
Basically. Basically. But so moving on to our last topic of the day is what do we want to see from season 2 of Jujutsu Kaisen?
More.
Explanations. I
Yeah, I was
want
gonna say
That-
more
the
stakes.
world explained to me, the power system explained to me. Let me know what these characters are living in.
And I don't
What
know
is
if
the
that was
reason?
just. I don't know. Now that we're talking about it, I do want to see more explanation from season 2. And thinking about it, I don't know if they did this on purpose. Like, we're going to shove all this stuff in your face, season 1. And then season 2, we're going to sit down and break down all of this stuff for you.
No, I didn't think about. Considering that the movie is supposed to be like the beginning of the manga, maybe the movie will explain it.
Maybe.
Maybe.
And then season 1 makes more sense after you watch the movie. And then by season 2, we know enough that because based off Dirty Margarita McMillian, there's some big stuff coming. So maybe it's let's throw all of this stuff in your face. Now let's explain it. Okay.
Yeah.
Now let's get into season 2 because you guys haven't seen nothing yet. But you need to understand and see all this other stuff first before we get into season 2.
I agree. For me, the big thing is I need them to expand more upon the domain expansion because, like I said, for me right now it just feels like a I win button, and so I need y'all to show me some more stuff and explain more of why it shouldn't just be necessarily an I win button all the time. You know, like just develop it more. Like I said, it's not deep enough at this point for me. It's not well thought out in my opinion just yet for me. They just need to go more in depth on the domain expansion. That's what I would like to see from season 2, because it looks like from this point on we're going to be getting more domain expansions, and as we just said before, we just don't want to see domain expansion.
Domain expansion.
Like okay, like I'm fighting. Oh, we getting a good fight in, but all right, let me just go ahead and end this domain expansion. Like, why not just did that from the beginning? Like, just like
why you playing with me like this?
Yeah. Like, oh, you thought you want domain expansion? Nah, it's just please, I need some more depth to domain expansions. Just please. Any season 2 things you want? Anything you want to see from season 2, McMillian? Mr. Manga.
I mean, y'all basically said y'all basically the things I read in the manga. But y'all basically said it. Like, I want to see more stakes and more explanation to the world. Like, I kind of get the overall plot. I kind of get what we're working towards, but make me feel like I live in it as well. I think a good thing Ryan's probably developed on our podcast before, the thing he likes to do when he first watches anime is trying to imagine himself in this world. And the thing is, stuff is so loosely defined here, I can't even do it. And I'm pretty imaginative myself. Like,
you know what? I didn't even think about that aspect of the anime, like trying to put yourself in that world.
At this point, I'm in JJK and my curse object is a chicken finger because that's all y'all gave me. Like, if my curse object could be anything, I'm there. I go to the school. My curse object is a chicken finger.
It's like when people write fan fiction. And to write a really good fan fiction, you almost got to understand the world of the story well enough to where you can even imagine what would go and what would make sense and what the characters would do. I couldn't do that with JJK. I couldn't do that right now because I don't know much about the world. Like that guitar dude, it threw me off. How did this happen? What's going on here? I was already thrown off by the hammer girl.
As much as I know, I have the guitar ability. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I need more explanation of the world so I can get lost in it.
You know, like I said, I didn't even think about that aspect at first, but now that y'all just brought this up to me, I can't really just envision myself inside the world of Jujutsu Kaisen just yet. Because, like you said, like I can't even start to think about how I would even get my cursed powers. Because, like we already stated before, they don't really explain the power system that well. So it's just like what you're saying. I'm just gonna go into the school and now my cursed object is a chicken finger.
That's all you know.
Mine gonna be an Xbox controller. I don't know.
It's like
I know mine is comic books.
For all we know, we don't have cursed powers, and now we gotta get objects.
Just humans. Yeah, or that.
Yeah. So it's like I said, I just did not think about the expert before, and I'm glad y'all brought that up because now it just really got me thinking. Like they really didn't do enough world building for me to actually put myself into their world.
I think they
Hmm.
skipped because they skipped around a lot because they do some time skipping in JJK too, and because they do a
Yeah,
lot of time skipping, they didn't.
because of the
It's
focus on Isidori and the fact that he had to
right.
fake his death.
So it seems like they sacrifice the world building to do all these time jumps to tell this story.
Like
Yeah.
we get I feel like we get a bigger understanding of like curse energy and how it operates, but we never got to see an explanation of how does one develop a curse technique or how do they go about getting one, and like
Correct.
what are the parameters that gives them such their techniques besides the only one they touched on, which was bloodline. But like for people that don't come from sorcerer families, what what
What do they
happens?
do?
That yeah,
Because
They're
like
because
prime
as far as I know,
example,
I don't. For as
prime
far as I know,
example,
Toto
Nobara. Why the hell is her shit hammering nails? How
yeah,
did you find
or
that shit out?
or
I know we
Toto
said this before, but just how?
yeah, or Toto's how did he get the clapping thing? Like we know
They're
based
muggles.
on we know based on like the story. He's like, oh, I had a master, but that doesn't explain. Like that doesn't tell us how your curse technique turned out to be boogie woogie.
Like, did you create Boogie Woogie or was you born with Boogie Woogie? You know,
Because
like
the way they explain it seems like
Can we not do
you had
Boogie
to been
Woogie?
born with it, and
I
later on you
mean,
just kind of
hey,
develop it.
that's what he called it. I'm calling it
Yeah,
what he
exactly.
called it.
That's legit canon name for the ability, Boogie Woogie, and I have no problem with that. My thing is like because you can be silly because Hunter x Hunter was silly with that shit, like bungee gum. Like
Yes, I was
that's a
just about
silly
to
ass.
bring that up.
That's a
However,
Bungee
silly.
but they
gum.
Hey,
explained the
Bungee gum is
properties of
not.
bungee
Bungee gum is.
gum.
Hold
They
on.
went
The same. It
in
has
But I'm
the
depth
saying,
on
same
bungee
qualities.
gum.
let's
It
not
has the
act
same
like
qualities of rubber and gum. That is.
no,
He's a
no. But
transmuter.
I'm
Let's
saying
not.
like, but let's not act like that name isn't hilarious
It's
or
just
like
The name
out of
had.
all
It
the
was his
things he
favorite
could have
gum as a
named it,
child. It was his
out
favorite
of
gum as a child.
For
out of
those who
all the
don't
things he
know,
could have
Ryan is a
named
big
it,
Hisoka fan.
Let me get my T-shirt that Portia got me. Where is it?
we finna put
Y'all not
him
finna
on the
disrespect
I ain't
Bungee gum.
insulting him.
list.
I'm just saying like you can. My thing is you can mix seriousness with silliness. Like it's not nothing bad about it. I was just saying like this is. I'm gonna call it what it's called, the boogie woogie. Like how did that come about, Toto? Like explain to me how you discovered that you had that, or like how did you develop it? Because from what Gojo explained, crush techniques are based on bloodline, and as far as I know, Toto doesn't seem to come from like a sorcerer family. At least if he does, they haven't shown it. Same thing
Yeah.
with Nobara. Same thing with Nobara.
Yeah.
She was from the countryside.
Yeah, exactly.
Her whole
So that's what.
backstory was how she used to watch this lady and hang out with her, and then she moved, and I was like, all right, okay.
So
And then
I mean,
she show up
so
with hammer and nails.
yeah, exactly. So I'm just like, I would like to more so get like for the people that don't come from family, like even because like for instance, Harry Potter was like, oh, they're was it Muggle born sorcerers or something
Yeah.
like that. They just explain that eventually bloodline your bloodline can gain the ability.
Or
to
it's
magic.
somebody in your bloodline that had magical
Yeah,
powers,
at one
Yeah.
point.
and
So
then
Essentially, it
they
became
skip
like a recessive
multiple
trait.
generations,
Mhm.
and then
yeah, even if it's that, I'm like, okay, cool, that works for me. But they never said that, so
Yeah,
I'm just like,
they just need to explain it basically.
yeah,
because
So
I need to be able to get lost, man. I need to be able to
We
get lost into this world you made, like, because it's already cool. I like it. It's just the lack of information is making it hard for me to get lost
essentially we want season 2 to be an explanation of season 1. We want to know
in it.
why.
Because like for
And
instance, even something as simple as Demon Slayer, which is slightly based in reality, so it's one not that hard to like imagine yourself there. The breathing techniques are super simple, and I can imagine I can get lost in the world of Demon Slayer.
Mhm.
One, because of like just how it doesn't even have to be like grandiose. Like I said, it
right.
could just be simply like, oh, my some like seventh great grandfather apparently was a Jujutsu sorcerer. It's just that the curse energy skipped over generations to where I got it or some shit like that.
yeah.
And I'm like, okay, cool, fine, that works. I just need something.
yeah. Well, all right. Well, of course, as we got to do this. Got to give it a rating. So, what would everybody rate season 1?
Oh, 5?
Here's the thing: people see 5 as
No,
negative.
no, no, no. I mean,
Five,
I get you.
five,
It's average
five,
to us.
five is
Well,
right in the middle. Okay, not bad, not good. I could slide it up to a 6 because the fights are well animated and stuff of that nature. But then having this conversation about how the world is honestly barely explained, and I'm more so here for plot and story anyway because I can watch an anime with good fights if I wanted to. I'll say it's a 5. It's all right, and that's just off of season 1. I can't rate the entire series. I haven't watched it,
Yeah,
so
no,
that
yeah,
got
we
it.
just rating
So
season one.
yeah,
Yeah, just yeah.
just off of season 1 as a whole, I'll consider this a 5. When Portia first discovered anime, for example, we was all there. This was not one of my recommendations. It definitely was not something that I
I
would
mean,
have told her to
she was watching it
watch.
by then,
You
but
know what I'm saying? Like
yeah.
I'll have to give it a 5.
Okay. For me, I can give it a 6. Probably like towards the end of the season, it's like maybe a 7, but overall, I think I can go like a 6. Like I said before, it really just wasn't nothing I haven't seen before. Though, like we've been saying before, it did feel nostalgic. I guess that's one of the parts that technically did help it / hurt it at the same time because it felt nostalgic. But other than that, it was just nothing new. But it was a good watch and it had good animation. Like I said before, I just need it's two things I don't like in animes: the power of friendship and the I win button. And right now, they, in my opinion, they have a big I win button problem that I think they need to resolve.
The
So
power of friendship.
which is almost like an I win button in itself. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I can give it. I'll give it a 6.
I was gonna go
Um,
6. Um, the 6 is the boosting from. So the thing that I want to put this out here, what everybody will learn about me or have learned. Why does he have this Pikachu? But I love female characters, especially when the female characters have such an impact on their series where they can stand alone. And I would have gave it a 5 had it not been for the female characters standouts that are in JJK. So just because of that, I'm rocking with a 6 on this one.
Okay.
um, me and Poop are very similar. I do because of the lack. I feel like of a lot of like individualistic female characters in a lot of media. I do admire series that does take the time to flesh out their female counterparts because it just makes it feel more believable. One, and then two, it makes for more dynamic and interesting stories and characters. Um, I think I would give JJK a 6. It has some things it lacks, which is really holding it back from that like 7 or 8 that I feel like it could potentially be. But where we got left off in season 1, I feel like we got introduced to some very likable characters, very nice friendships, nice fights. But the fact that I can't really get lost in this world is really holding it back from me, giving it like a 7 or 8. And yeah, I mean that's basically like I'd be reiterating most of the stuff I went to like mostly it's just the fact that like they haven't given me enough information for me to really get lost in the series.
Correct.
And if you watch any of our other episodes, you know I like world building a lot. Like that is my jam. And it almost feels like there's not too much of it going on. And it's like we have important players in this thing, but we don't fully know what makes them truly important, like the powers that they have or certain things like that. Like it feels like JJK is kind of making this shit up as they go along, which I don't know. Sometimes can be good depending on like how good of the writers are. Or sometimes it can be bad. Right now, it's not. It's not like it's very much in the middle. Like I can't make heads or tails of whether I'm gonna like the end of this by like whenever we get to it.
Correct.
But with
And
season 1, it's just like
yeah, and I guess a little bit further explanation of mine as well is that how Ryan brought this up is how long will this whole Gojo being the most OP thing take place? Like how long would this last? That's also a big factor in this anime as well because, like you said, we want to see conflict, and then as long as Gojo is still in the play, like he said, it was just like we know everything is going to be fine towards the end because we still have Gojo. So it's just like,
mm-hmm.
how long is he still going to be in play? And when he does finally get taken out of play, how dire will the conflicts get? How interesting are the conflicts are going to get? Like what's going to be the move? What's going to happen?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So definitely looking forward to seeing that as well. But until then, I think overall, like I said, it's a decent show. No, by all means, would it be one of my first recommendations just yet, but hopefully as time goes on, they will change my mind about that. I would like to Jujutsu Kaisen more than I do now currently, but they just haven't really showed nothing. Like I said, they haven't revolutionized nothing in this anime for me to be like, okay, this is a must watch. You know what I mean?
it got some
Mm-hmm.
kinks to work out, and I think if it actually does, it could potentially be what everybody says. Like I said, I've already read ahead, so I know stuff is coming. But I mean, I didn't read too far ahead. Like I don't know, I'm not on like what's currently out. I just went enough to like go to the next arc, and I'm like, okay, I see now why you guys are boosting this up. I get it. I definitely get it from that point. But that's one arc that I know
Yeah.
that, and after that arc, it could just go right back to the same shit. So as long as it doesn't moving forward, I feel like it could potentially get to like, in my opinion, like what I feel like Demon Slayer will eventually be when it ends.
Okay. Well, with that being said, I would like to thank Foop and Ryan for joining us today on our special episode of the season 1 retrospective of Jujutsu Kaisen. And McMillan, you go ahead and take us out of here.
All right, guys. So as always, thank you for watching. If you want to be able to stay up to date with us, you can follow us on our social medias. On Twitter, we are at the Gurren Otakus, and on Instagram, Gurren Otaku Council. As well as if you're listening to any of these on our audio streaming platforms, be sure to hit the follow button. You can find us at Gurren Otaku Council on Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts. We're also going to be expanding those platforms soon to other streaming services, so just keep a lookout on our social medias. If you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to hit that like and subscribe, as well as put put down some comments. If you disagree with anything we say, we'd love to have the discourse. If you're being disrespectful, you will get blocked real soon. And if there was any things we probably like missed or didn't mention, go ahead and we take criticism. Like there was someone already mentioned something in Mushoku Tensei that we did not think about, and we shouted them out on the episode. So if there's something that we did miss, let us know. With that being said, meeting adjourned, council meeting adjourned, guys. See you.
Peace.